was like, oh, there were a number of people who dressed up. Now, I went to Judith's house and we took the bus. Okay, because she's like 5 minutes away on the bus, right? So, so I did not dress up. She wore the high thing, but of course it was covered the whole time. There were people, there were women there, sleeveless, just really beautiful stuff, which I would have loved to do. Except
and what kind of,
there's no love.
well, let's talk about it.
I said you go and you sit down.
Okay.
And yes.
Since you're hoping to put out the towers, also blow out the blue candles.
Okay, all right. Yeah, if I can figure out when I'm supposed to do that.
You know what?
I know it doesn't matter. Well, it has to be. It's been difficult. So, but yeah, they were, there's like these women with, with no jackets on or anything, and sleeveless, and they were running out to the parking lot and go, you can go to my car, Before COVID, his forest was okay. Right. Yeah, but the thing is that you're in a place like I'm going to see the Messiah at St. Paul Chamber the concert hall at the Ordway, right? And there's all this place, for you to mingle and walk around and have a drink and everything like that. And so that's the point to be seen dressing up.
Is there a particular
This was like, it's this huge crowd going in, you're all going to your seats, sitting down.
So that's all different bread and
Yeah,
this
no,
is
it was, do you know, are you familiar with the story of, maybe you are? Just, it really, I don't know, it's really disturbing. Yeah. But there was this one song where, Javier, he was the guy who, the lawman who was driven by God. He does a solo, and it was the melody, everything glorified him, and then at the very end they had 3, like lights shining down on him as though he'd been seen by the ghost or something like that. And I'm just like, But I don't know how, I never read the book, so I have no idea how. But I've seen both the movie of it
Don't mind me just doing a little solstice prep.
okay.
and it was just like, I think I told you.
Dawn, I promise I'll get back into it this week. I've just been so sick.
Oh, is it? I get distressed.
So when I get COVID, I'm in hospital.
I was thinking about all the musicals that I grew up with, West Side Story, My Fair Lady, and those have just, in my opinion, extremely wonderful, memorable melodies, music, and I didn't get that from there are some really good songs there, I think.
Well, I'll put it in the open service, just mostly for me, so. But I'll work on that tomorrow, so. When you send an email inviting everybody to the
There's another one,
well, I mean, except at 7 in the morning when it's
so I was in 3rd grade when it came out. I was living in Austin, Texas. 1 year we lived in Texas.
much better by Tuesday.
I think I went 5 times.
I know, I'm using that
Once
native
with a friend,
too, which is
then
really
once with the family, and then all
it's
of my
horrible,
friends
it's
would
really
have.
feels better afterwards.
Right.
That's
how I am. I'm not sure this is curing me.
Yeah.
I went so many times. I really love it.
At least you can read a little for a few minutes afterward.
It's too goopy or.
Okay, I forgot what I measured now.
Sorry.
I know you've been asking for pictures, and I keep thinking, I should take a couple of pictures during the service. so I might wander around, since everything's so festive.
That is wonderful, yeah. And Jenna's and I met, he's working on the traffic room and the rest of the stuff, and then, we're comparing, he's sick right now, like, it's sick time.
Yeah, right.
We'll get it done eventually, so that's the most important part.
My dad always says everybody was like,
And I thought that we would also, it would be nice to have a which also includes council, so I'll be, or Jim will be asking for pictures of people that are on the council, so we can also put it on our website. And then make a little page for that, and then people use it for the people that do the sound or tech or
Yeah.
people like to see people.
And the congregational curmudgeon.
Oh, yeah. I was getting ready to go off the song, people who need people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did everybody bring their own? Is that how you do it? Because I just left mine over there. I figured it was.
Well, that's fine. Well, this is just, we'll keep eating the bread, you know, that's fine. We just wanted some up here so people can do it.
Somebody brought some cider or something.
I was thinking,
Did you hear about it?
No.
she made a really good line at the service last week.
Oh, okay.
It was timed so well.
Chuck coming behind you. Would a 10 o'clock appointment to talk about solstice stuff work for you on Tuesday?
10 a.m.
Oh, I thought you were.
I'm doing, yeah, in May.
Oh.
It's a Joy of Man's Desire.
Well,
But it's a jazz arrangement.
Oh.
I'm available.
Yeah, I'm not critical. So,
okay,
That's amazing.
we'll probably do 10 on Tuesday.
Yeah, and
yeah, I'm just, one of the things.
You know, if you want me to, if you want something, but plan, you don't need to have time. You got it.
I don't know, because I've done a lot on saying I was speaking. I play the gig, it's like, oh, it's just.
Yeah.
Is that not
I'm
gonna
glad you were able to
Oh,
rest.
no.
Despite the illness, right?
I performed on those things and I'm amazed.
I'm like Super Bowl.
Yeah, my brother tells me, your work ethic takes precedent to mine even.
Yeah, my work ethic
You
is
know, having grown up on a dairy farm, I mean, geez, you
Yeah.
know.
So we'll have to, well, we all know we are.
My dad missed one day of work from being sick, his whole entire work day. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And he wasn't ever sick. It wasn't like he went to work sick. He didn't, he just.
I hated being sick when I was a school teacher because you have to do more work when you're like sick. Because, you know, the emergency lesson plans are never enough.
Well, and we don't substitute for a while, and we did whatever we wanted.
Yeah, that's
Right.
exactly
And I never.
Survival.
I don't get to have a class, I just have to cancel class. And then I have to make up too.
Oh, no, me too. The good thing is now, like I mostly only do virtual, so I'll just say, okay, everybody, I'm sick, let's get into a discussion and talk about these problems and I'll listen. And it works out really well, but they're graduate students, so I can.
I can do that now with my experience,
What that day,
but during the pandemic, I couldn't have done.
Oh, no, in my undergraduate students, I can.
I'm sure I was in on the first.
You know, if you're ever sick on Sunday or leading up to a Sunday and you don't prepare much at all, we've had in the past just circle discussions and we do the normal chalice lighting and concern and stuff like that. And just start out, here's a topic, let's talk about
Kind of
it.
like quicker.
And it takes the whole, we'll talk for an hour easy.
We should do that intentionally
Yeah,
sometime.
yeah.
Just,
It is.
that would be nice. Chuck, you're
Yeah, that's pretty quiet.
Darn, I gotta work.
Gotta whack it.
I'm gonna.
That's right. That's what you call, right? Do you wanna hang out with Dan? You can grab a chair and put it over by him.
number 389, Gathered Here. We'll sing it twice through. I will play it through once.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to all who have joined us in person, and welcome to all who are joining us online. We're glad that everyone is with us. I just want to start by saying I've been sick for a while, so please feel free to hold me in your thoughts while this service is going through, but I think I'll make it. I can breathe a little bit, so that's good. Hopefully I won't pass out. Today we are going to be exploring the beginning of Advent, which is an ancient tradition that predates Christianity that, not to some people's surprise, was adapted from pagan traditions in the British Isles. So we're also going to be doing bread communion. And so at a point during the service, and I'll explain this a little bit more during the presentation, well, if you feel moved to do so, nobody's required. Feel free to come up. There's more bread in the back that people have brought, but I just chose some to put up here, and there's even a gluten-free option, and then there's some apple cider. So feel free at some point to come up if you feel so moved, and I'll again tell you when we're going to be doing that. And that is just a symbol for us to come together and be in unity and focus ourselves as this season of the holidays joins us together in cold, as we've been spoiled through the fall without a lot of cold. Next Sunday, Suki is going to be coming and sharing with us some Buddhist traditions around the concept of peace. And I'll explain to you the different pieces of Advent and what we're doing in reclaiming that. And peace is one of those parts of Advent. So we're really excited to have her with us next Sunday. Also, please remember that our winter solstice service is December the 20th. And we're really excited about that. We're getting it together. It's going to be a really awesome extravaganza, and we're looking forward to it. Anybody else have announcements you'd like to share?
Movie night this Friday, 6:30 at the Grinolint.
Awesome. Oh,
One more?
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, are you looking?
Linda.
Okay. Next Sunday is a little Christmas party at the gallery at the Cougar Chapter House in Bloomington. I'll see if Chuck will put a little notice in the monkey chimp thing next.
Male monkey.
Anyway, it's in the afternoon, and they're also putting out, it's more than this, but a lot of artists who have exhibited there every month for the last year donated a piece, so they're putting those all out. That's going to be the exhibition, and they're having a silent auction too. But it's a little Christmas party.
Awesome. Great. Kathy.
And for those who don't want to go to movie night, I have a concert on Friday. Yeah, movie night's at my house, and I'm not going to be there. But and then there's another one. Then there's a 3:30 concert on Saturday, and I have a couple cards back here if you want information, and you can grab it. But there's going to be a harp. It's going to be amazing.
Because of the holidays and stuff like that, and my lack of focus, I'm not prepared to do choir today, so let's put it off and we'll figure it out. But yeah, we had some sickness and some holiday hangovers, or whatever.
I went to Bemidji.
Awesome, thank you. Others?
I have the cards about the Cuba thing
Okay.
I can put back there, or you can take a picture of them, because I only have two.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I also want to just take a moment, and I would love to be able to include this in the service later in Advent, but this beautiful stole that I'm wearing that has two sides, but you can't see the other side till next Sunday, was put together by Kathy, and I really appreciate that, and I feel as it's important to acknowledge that because I didn't have a blue stole, and we'll talk about blue in the presentation today and what that means. But I really appreciate that, and I'm hoping that we could do a little ritual during a service in Advent to honor this beautiful stole. I appreciate it. Any last announcements? Okay, well, I invite you to take a deep, slow, gentle breath. Try to separate yourself from the chaos of the world as much as possible. Center ourselves and come together in fellowship, commemoration, celebration time, and enjoy this beautiful prelude. I now invite you to remain seated and join us in our opening words. Seeds scattered on fertile ground are warmed by the sun and fed by the soil. They sprout and grow, producing great fields of grain.
The grain is harvested and ground into flour and shipped across the nation. The flour is mixed with yeast and water and salt and kneaded, allowed to rise, and baked to make bread.
The bread is broken in the sacred space of this worship service and shared in this community of love.
The breaking of bread is an ancient ritual of community and memory celebrated in many different traditions and many different ways.
Today, as we complete the celebration of Thanksgiving and begin our Advent journey, we break bread together to celebrate the abundance of the harvest, the hard work of all who make our lives possible, in the community that gathers here to fellowship together.
These loaves were baked with love, abundant love, love that multiplies all that is around it. As we partake of bread and cider, may we feel the community sense all around us, at a table where no one is turned away.
Therefore, in the spirit of the bread of community, we light this chalice together and say,
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal with love, to help with compassion, to bless with joy, to serve you, spirit of freedom, in the fullness of community.
Now I invite you to rise as you're able and join us in our opening hymn, which is number 349. 349. Unitarian Universalism is a faith with roots in Christianity and has evolved into what we are today, an ecumenical interfaith body of believers and non-believers. Some UUs today identify themselves as Christians, others don't. Yet during the season of Advent, we all have something we can find illuminating, comforting, challenging, or fulfilling by reinterpreting old traditions. This year, during Advent, we'll light the candles in a wreath, one for each of the 5 Sundays this December. The candles are blue, pink, and white, each with their own virtuous story: hope, peace, joy, love, and light. Today we join with others from throughout time and beyond time in the practice of repairing the world, beginning with believing in hope that change is possible. Next slide. Next slide. There it is. Change is possible. Hope springs abundantly through our steadfast work together. We give thanks for the role models of the past and for the leaders of the future. Today, we light the candle of hope for the future and the future of children on this planet. And now it's time for that intentional pause in our service for our beloved community. And I feel that it was very important to read this particular statement in light of the recent Thanksgiving holiday that we are closing down, I guess, this Sunday. I still have leftovers. But here we go. Friends, we pause now during our service to acknowledge that we now stand and sit upon the traditional territories of the indigenous people, the Dakota, for whom this very county and congregation are named, and at least 10 other tribes of Native people throughout the current borders of the state of Minnesota. Over hundreds of years, Native communities across the Americas have demonstrated resilience and resistance in the face of violent efforts to separate them from their land, culture, and each other. Today, Indigenous people remain at the forefront of movements to protect Mother Earth and the life she sustains, along with the preservation of their own human cultures and traditions. We acknowledge that it is critical to be an active part of public intervention, taking necessary steps toward honoring Indigenous communities and enacting the much larger project of decolonization and reconciliation. May this acknowledgement not only be a reminder, but even more so an inspirational call to action to work to ensure whatever reparations are possible be carried out throughout this ancient holy land that we all now call home. It's this time during the service when we invite you, if you feel so moved to do so, to come forward, light a candle from the chalice, and share a joy and or concern. And if anybody online has something to share, please chime in and Alice will light a candle for you.
Stand like this. Is this the right way? Sure. I have both joy and concern. Our sister-in-law, Julie, just passed away. So, and then a really big joy is that we're going to be great-grandparents in July. Oh, and I also want to thank Linda for organizing this wall hanging behind you that is so beautiful, that Linda organized and we all worked on. I looked at it. It was wonderful.
I feel very special to sit in front of it.
This is a joy for my mom. It seems like she's found kind of her place and a really good partner that makes her really happy. And it was just really cool seeing her in like this different place last weekend. So.
This is some concerns. Jim and Rob are both home sick. Chris was sick over Thanksgiving. And the husband of a friend from high school has been battling prostate cancer, stage 4, for 6 years, and has pretty much exhausted treatment options.
So, December 3rd is my father's birthday. And even though he put my sister and I through violent amounts of physical abuse, I don't have enough hate in my heart not to wish him well.
Bryan, I don't know if this is a joy or a concern, but where you're sitting, you have a tree growing out of your head.
You know, the tree is my spirit symbol, so it's no accident. The goddess had made that happen.
You're welcome. That was it, Megan? Okay.
That's it.
This is for you?
That sounds like a Barbara
So I'm going to light a candle for health. And along with it comes a little story. For those of you who don't know, I love chickens. And I had a sick chicken that I thought for sure would not make it because the cold is so bad. Yet when I walked out there yesterday morning after just completely telling both Dawn and Josh she won't make it through the night, she was walking around acting like, as if nothing ever happened. So if she can get over her cold, I can get over mine. And I will light a final candle now for all the joys and concerns that remain unspoken. May we know that whatever befalls us in life, we are held in the loving embrace of this community. And now we say together, for all of these joys and concerns, both spoken and unspoken, we hold you in our hearts. My reflective reading today, just keeping with the theme, is entitled Hope. It's a poem by Jennifer Pratt Walter. Gold and red autumn leaves surround an abandoned bird's nest. See how the winds have shaped her hands to hold hope. So tenuous, she trembles like a hummingbird's heart. She gently carries hope to a nest in the midst of the maelstrom and tilts into the bowl of tiny feathers and mosses. Hope is so hard to cup. She might need your help when it seeps through the cracks of her fingers. Place your hands like this around hers. Together, it can be done. When hope hatches, when the nest is no more, watch the wind pick up hope and lay it softly into the welcome of unpraised palms. So as I've alluded to and talked about already at the beginning of the service, we are working on re-envisioning the season of Advent, re-envisioning it for this community in Unitarian Universalism. So let me just kind of give you a background of what Advent has historically been about, just for those of you that may not know. But when I first got into seminary, I didn't really know a lot about church history. Now I feel like I can't get away from it because it's been instilled in me with all these degrees. But one of the things that I had no idea about is that in the actual Christian church, over the course of hundreds of years, the first Sunday of Advent was actually New Year, before January the 1st became New Year. So in the Christian tradition, the church year starts over today, which means there is a 3-year cycle of lectionary readings out of the Bible and all of those things, and it starts over. This is year B or year C. There's 3 years, and once you go through, if you go to church every Sunday in a Christian church for 3 years, you get through the entire Bible, almost every verse. Not that everybody goes to church every Sunday, but that's the thought. And Advent is the beginning of that cycle every year. But predating the Christian adaptation to Advent, and of course most of us know that the symbol of the wreath, as well as the Christmas tree, predate Christmas by thousands of years probably. And Advent really means arrival or hope for arrival. And originally, Advent was the hope, the beginning of the hope for the arrival of the return of the light. So I've proposed that this year, especially since we have 5 Sundays in December, I thought it worked out pretty cool, that we have an Advent wreath where we light the 4 candles of Advent, which are 3 blue ones and 1 pink one. And I'm going to save the story about the pink one for the 3rd Sunday of Advent because I've got my whole story for that. I love it. But the other candles are also, well, the other candle is white. And typically in the Christian tradition, they adapted that to become what is called the Christ light. But originally, the light in the center of the Advent wreath before Christianity, it was the celebration of the return of the light. And it was the candle that was lit after the winter solstice to celebrate that the days are getting longer. It still may be as cold as you know what, but it's getting more and more light every single day. So that's where we're approaching this today. And also, one of the things that was brought to my attention is that you have done bread communion. So in my profound illness over the course of the last many days, I had nothing to do but get on my phone and do some research about bread communion in the UUA. I had no idea it was a thing because, you see, I'm still in process, right? I'm still learning. And I realized that, of course, before this, that having cakes and ale or sharing bread or food and drink, of course, is a human old tradition among many cultures for thousands and thousands of years. And as we talked about the last time I was speaking, the idea of communion being a symbol of unity in our community and inviting the larger community in, what better symbol than bread, which is something that is made with love. Now, let me give you a little story about that. So I always hated making homemade bread because it's such a process. I'm so impatient. But I love it. Like, I love the smell of the, well, when I can smell, I love the smell of the bread. Cooking in the house. It's amazing. But my gosh, it's a lot to make bread. It's hours. And then, of course, if you throw in the idea of sourdough, it's days, right? If anybody's ever made sourdough. I know that was a big thing during the pandemic. I tried it and gave up. But still, bread has this thing that calls us to it. And it has been the centerpiece of human existence for so, so long. Well, guess what? I finally discovered a bread machine. And you know what? I love it because I can just put the stuff in there and I can press the button. Do I want to make baguette? Or if I want to make sweet bread, which is our favorite, or if I want to make quick bread because I need it in an hour, I can just press buttons. I can even put in there the dough feature and then roll them out into yeast rolls and make everybody believe that I made this by myself. But that impatience sometimes has caused me to feel a little guilty because it's like, I remember my grandmother and my mother just taking the time to knead the bread and let it rest, let it rise, let it proof. And I feel that sense of guilt, but at the same time, I don't because I've got a lot of other things to do. And yet I really enjoy the smell and then the sharing of that bread. I mean, I don't really know a lot of people who don't like bread. And I feel badly for people that have gluten sensitivity, although now I did make gluten-free bread in my bread machine and it worked. So hey, we've come a long way in the world. So today, as we share our bread and cider, what I want you to think about is that age-old tradition of inviting people to our table. And one of the things that I have shared before that I didn't like so much about former churches that I've been a part of is when people would say, oh, well, you're not a member of the church, you're not allowed to take communion. Or you haven't gone through First Communion yet, so you can't take communion. And, you know, that was one of my least favorite things because they would bring a 2 or 3 year old child up front and the kid didn't get anything. Like, who does that to a child? I couldn't stand that, see? So, one of the things about this ritual, and no matter whether you're a believer or a non-believer in the holy, ritual is really important to all of us. I mean, we all get up and brush our teeth in the morning. That's a ritual too. But the ritual of inviting people to our tables to join in a feast that we have lovingly prepared, and then in many cases, many people have lovingly prepared and brought together, is a timeless symbol of family beyond the boundaries of traditional blood family. And I was so sad that we had to cancel our gathering, but we're going to look forward to next year, because one of the things that I hold so dear is to make sure that everyone has a place at my table. Who doesn't have a place anywhere else, or even if they have a place somewhere else, they come to my table anyway and eat and drink and be merry. But there's a message of hope, which is today's theme in Advent, in all of this, which is there will be a tomorrow. The sun will shine longer again. The spring will return, maybe later than we want, but it's going to return. The world is still turning, the sun is still rising, and we still have a call to the work that we have to do, at the very least, is to make sure that everyone is welcome. And I've said so many times that it may be very difficult at times to love certain people. To love the so-called unlovable is sometimes the biggest challenge that we have in our lives. Those people that we don't understand, those people that we can't possibly imagine do that thing. I don't know how they live with themselves. Those are the people that we are supposed to love the most. The people that are outside of our tradition, the people that are outside our frame of mind. And even calling to other traditions, like if we look at the history of Buddhism, that you're going to hear a little bit more about next week, about how everybody is a part of everything, and we're all interconnected, no matter who we are and no matter where we are on our journey. Also, if you look at the Christian tradition, Jesus got in a lot of trouble because he welcomed the people that everybody else hated. The prostitute, the Samaritan, all of these stories are throughout. And sometimes, again, the people that are hard to love forget about the fact that that was in the Bible too, not these other things that they typically talk about. In this day and time when a lot of us have struggled over the past weeks to find hope in the future, to find hope in uncertainty of what's going to happen come January, we take heart that the sun also rises. Now, I know that's the title of a book, but you don't have to throw that in there. The light will come. The light does come back. The light will return, and the days will get longer. Hope is sometimes all we have. Now, I would be remiss if I did not bring up another piece of what today is. Today, December the 1st, is World AIDS Day. And one of the things that I tend to say on the first Sunday of Advent, because it's always around December the 1st, is that some of the deepest, darkest times of my life, when I struggled to find hope, happened back in the 80s and 90s when I experienced the death of a third of my friends, when it seemed like nobody was doing anything to help my community. Like a third of my friends, I'm not even extrapolating that. And if we look historically, about a third of the people who were infected with HIV died in the 80s and 90s until the advent of medicines that could probably help people survive. It was a dark, dark time, and we all, when I say we all, a lot of gay men felt like we weren't going to make it through. And we heard all these stories like it's a curse. It's because you're evil. That's why you have this. Although that didn't explain why all the other people had it too, not just us. But it was a struggle, not only to find hope amidst all of this death, but also when people say, well, that's not my problem. You did that to yourself. I heard that and I saw my friends crying as they were laying in bed, taking some of their last breaths. Now, I don't mean to be depressing about that, but it's very important to understand that we have to take the bad times and not forget them. Those things are things that we should never forget. Things like other things in history, like the Holocaust, the Japanese internment camps in America, the immeasurable amounts of things that humans have been responsible for. But the one thing that we can hold on to that is the theme of today, the first Sunday of Advent, is hope. And it's not just empty hope. The hope lies with us. If you remember in the liturgy earlier, one of the things I loved about that, because I adapted that from someone else, is that we join today with all those people around us as repairers of the world. So what does hope mean for all of us? Well, I don't know about you, but hope means for me that I will continue to do the best I can to repair the world, to leave it better than I left it. And that's my challenge to all of us. Even in the deepest, darkest times, in the most anguish that we've ever experienced, whatever that may be, for the trials and tribulations that are even yet to come, hope gives us a light. And that light may be the only light at the end of the tunnel that we see, but there is an end of the tunnel. The light will return. And for me, that's what Advent is all about. That once again, there will be life and light and spring and the abundance of summer, which I'm kind of partial to now that I have a farm and I can actually grow all these wonderful vegetables, praying my garlic makes it through the winter, right? Hope. It's the seed of life. And so let's plant that seed. Let's keep repairing the world just by smiling at people that may seem to be unhappy. And believe me, it's hard to find smiles sometimes these days. But be the kindness that you want to see. Maybe just by your very presence, by your listening ear, by just paying attention and being there for each other, that is the seed of hope that will keep us going and will keep us growing. May it be so. And so as we listen to this reflective music, what I invite you to do is to come forward, and you don't have to do that, nobody's required to do this, and there's a lot more bread and cider after this. This is a ritual here, but there's more goodness in the back because you know I love treats. There are several different kinds of bread up here, and there's also a plate on the side of gluten-free. And then this is apple cider, non-alcoholic. And I wanted to get some apple cider from my neighbors, but this is the apple cider that I was going to serve at my Thanksgiving thing. I didn't want to go make my neighbors sick whenever I was going over there. So feel free to take some cider, a piece of bread, and then you can either partake of it here or you can return to your seat, and we'll find a basket to collect those glasses at the end. And then as we do this, what I'm inviting you into is hope for community, for the seed that we plant to repair the world, for us to come together and turn no one away from our table. This is the bread of our community. This is the drink of our community. And this is Minnesota apple cider, so at least we know it's local. Right? Feel free to come forward. as we finish our communal feast, feel free to discuss. My voice is almost gone, so you're not.
While you were talking, a song came to mind, surprise, surprise. And might be partly because I was watching a concert for George Harrison last night on PBS, and George Harrison's song, All Things Must Pass, talks about sunlight doesn't last all morning, it's not always going to be this gray, and nighttime doesn't last all evening, or whatever. And it's got dark and hopeful elements, but also, and they were singing it and it was like Eric Clapton and Paul McCartney and all of his musical friends singing it in tribute to him after his passing. So it was pretty powerful, you know. Really understood the storyline behind Advent for Christian church. You know, it's just, oh, it's first Sunday of Advent. Okay.
Of course, many people don't like it when I'm teaching my theology classes, when I talk about how, well, originally this was the return of the light, and so then, you know, they picked 3 days after the solstice, because traditionally the solstice was on the 22nd before leap year and all that stuff. And so 3 days after the solstice, when the light is longer both in the morning and the night, they said, oh, that's a great day to celebrate the birth of Christ. So we'll start there and work towards that. But I think it's good that it's both, the return of the light.
Right.
Because for Christians, Jesus is the light of the world. For me, the sun is the light of the world. I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
Be both.
The sun is our light.
I'm kind of relieved that we're getting the cold weather. That we didn't have last year.
I just hope that this year we get snow with the cold weather, because bitter cold with nothing to do is just boring.
Well, it was snowing in Inver Grove this morning, but it was clearly not snowing here.
Yep. Yes,
Well, it's
you
almost
guys
time to
know
ice
what
fish,
it is.
though. There's always ice fishing.
But if it's just bitter cold, what's the point?
Fishing is.
But for that, there's bourbon, you know.
I'm more of a kid than ice fishing. I want sledding and snowmobiling. We need snow.
Well, there's hope. There's hope.
There's hope.
There's hope. Well, right, because when it gets really cold, I mean, I think of most of Minnesota winters where it would snow in November, and that same snow would be there in March.
Right.
You know, so it would just be building up and building up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, if we all just, if people, my take is if people would just get off their cell phones and worry more about climate change than their cell phones. But that's my take on it.
No, we're a very spoiled people.
I just keep hoping that it gets so cold that the mosquitoes won't come back in the spring.
That's a very long tunnel, Bryan.
No, I think they like
We
it.
won't put that in the hope candle.
Because when I think of mosquitoes, I think of like alpine, you know, places that do get really cold. I think it's, you know, it's like.
Oh, Alaska 55 below, they still come back in the spring.
Consider those Asian lady beetles and Japanese beetles and all that.
They might not, I don't know.
It's supposed to be hopeful.
Yeah.
I didn't
And they
realize
have-
until recently that mosquitoes are actually pollinators.
Oh, yeah, they are.
So they do have a purpose.
did not know that.
They have working.
Frogs.
And they feed frogs, see, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
It's-
And hummingbirds.
And bats.
See, there's hope. I knew you had it.
They have inherent worth and dignity.
And the great scheme of things.
stretch, Chuck, but okay, we'll take it.
It's definitely annoying to get a mosquito bite, but it's not the end of the world, you know?
Unless it has malaria.
Right.
Yeah, I lived in Florida for too long, encephalitis and malaria.
West Nile.
Just go to Glacier National Park during mosquito season and tell me how one bite's annoying. It won't be one bite.
Right.
Well, as we always like to do, we can continue this conversation after the service. Please feel free to drink more of the cider that's up here, and more of the cider that's back there, and of course, a lot of the bread, because the feast doesn't end here. The feast continues with the hope that lives in us. We ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Yeah.
So I invite you then to rise and join in our closing hymn, Rise as You Are Able, number 323.
This is a new song for us, so I'll play the melody. It's a little tricky. Follow along. All right.
There's hope.
There's hope.
323.
Okay, I'll wait till everybody gets their pages. You're ready.
Stop the rush.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. I just like can't see
So as we move from this place, but treats first, I invite us to remember that we are the seed of hope. By our very act of smiling and giving kindness and planting the enduring love that we have, we can change the world together. Go in peace. You may be seated. So let the feast continue.
You're like, I want one.
Tasha. Oh,
Kathleen, did you take the, okay, I sang that as a kid every Thanksgiving. Anyway, so,
The writer's not bad.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He was also at some. He was a minister in Burlington when I got married. And he also this item is here. Why not? Knock it back.
Peace song again next time.
little baby, the whole. And not have to take.
My four other things right now, mentally.
Oh, she does.
You're probably gonna be her top if you want around that.
I think they just didn't want to do they, in the past, they did.
There you go.
Huge sanctuary.
See, we could take a bunch and just dump them into another cup too, but it might look kind of funny if I take, if we just stand up here and start taking
No,
shots.
little vodka in it.
I feel like I need to go skull before I go, you know what I mean? Skull.
I really want you to do that again.
All right, Bryan, we gotta take another shot. My mom missed the picture.
I don't know if I'm ever going drinking with you.
We're taking,
Look at me, I'm all.
taking pictures for the website. You got that one too.
I'm going to be fisting it. I didn't feel that, so I'm not going to go.
I got those at Mega Cells, so each one was like a story. This is really hard.
I thought about it.
Pardon me?
Wonders never seen.
Bryan, do you still need readers for the solstice?
I do. I would love
I'm willing to. Donnie, did you want to read
read something for the solstice service?
That's fine.
Yeah, you had Sylvia had mentioned before.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I just walked. Oh, no, take it. Take it. Okay. Okay.
Me and Bryan were doing shots up here together.
Yeah.
That's Bryan.
Doing shots.
We're doing shots.
Either me or Bryan drink hard liquor.
I don't drink hard liquor. I don't like it either. Well, I like a martini once in a great while. I like a margarita once in a great while, but wine or beer is my choice, my alcohol of choice.
About 2 years after we had Mel, we realized we were going downhill, so we did for a while.
Oh, good for
I'm
you.
not back to beer, but
Oh, good for you.
we got it.
Yeah, there's lots of cider back there, I guess, huh?
We have a whole gallon and a half back there still.
This looks so heavy, but it's light as a feather.
Plastic. Bring this over to the
Yeah,
tree table.
yeah. I don't know, dear. I mean, this goes in there. Not that.
Wrong. Anything else?
That's it for now. I don't know what, just leave this for a while until, I don't know who takes it.
And I still, I got stuff today.